first started going to the drag strip, I was going to a lot of test and tune days and, just getting practice time. So then once I started seeing NHRA and how it can be on a bigger platform, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do to make that happen? And I realized there's not a lot of big sponsorships on the level that I was racing in, such as the XD8. Well, back then it was the Man Cup series. And they're like, if you want to get sponsorships, you got to go NHRA Pro Stock. I'm like, no, I don't. People are like, you can't make a living off of drag racing. I said, okay, watch me. So then I started to learn the business because someone told me a long time ago, learn the business before you get in the business. So I started doing all the research as possible. But it was kind of tough for me because I had just started. And when I was approaching these different sponsors, they're like, well, what have you accomplished? I'm like, well, I'm just getting started, so nothing yet, but I know that I can, So I realized I just had to do the groundwork, whether that was study my craft, study the other racers, study the business, like what needs to be brought to the table, what can be brought to the table, what can change. And so it was hard because I'm in a male-dominated field, and at the time I was a little young. I was 17, 16. So I was still wet behind the ears. It was a lot of stuff that I didn't know. But as I kept going, I learned a lot. I learned how to speak. I learned how to market myself. I learned how to, be good on and off the track. So I'm not going to say it was difficult because I didn't know it, but once I learned it, it was easy. And like everybody's saying, the hardest thing in it is just locking in these sponsorships. That's it. The racing part is easy, but it's the behind the scenes part that's hard, but we'll get it.
And, there's been transition now from the track to, all of you becoming business owners, right? And having businesses within the racing industry. And, Dockmaster he created the first sanctioning body for the sport of big wheel racing. So you talk about NHRA, IHRA, NASCAR, all these, national brands of racing, and you decided, why not us? Talk about that.
Yeah, so I wanted to create the National Dunk Racing Association for safety. So a lot of times people will call me and be like, man, how do you put them big wheels in the car and go that fast? You know what I mean? Mine, we go 9 seconds, 150 miles per hour, speakers in the trunk, car weight 5,500 pounds, each wheel 125 pounds. They didn't make no studs or nothing just to hold that. So we contacted Moser, and they made us a hardened tinsel for 5/8 studs. So I had the first ones on that vehicle, and to keep the wheels on the car. And as we kept the wheels on the car, we want to go faster and faster and faster. So really, we did the organization to bring the shine a light on it that we actually can do something nobody ever done before, and to make it safe. And the people always loved it when I came to the track and did a burnout or did anything at a club or any of that kind of stuff. So it really started from just doing car shows, playing in the street a lot, and then it got on the mainstream where all the hip-hop artists wanted all my cars in the videos, and then everybody was starting to build them. Like every time it started where we would take 4 cars and it was like a filler. And then everybody asked me, how do you build that car? Where you get the parts from? You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So it just started to go from, and I just wanted to make it safe, It started from there.
What have been some of the hardships, the successes of having your own sanctioning body?
Being hated by everybody. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You're a pioneer, a trendsetter, a motivator. You know what I'm saying? Like in our group and our culture, they're very small-minded. So if they see somebody doing something, they don't think they can do it, or they're thinking otherwise. They're thinking it's all for you. You know what I'm saying? So when you do stuff like SEMA, PRI, we're trying to educate the people. So I'm educating them, but I have to show them how it's done. So you know what I mean? So I'm trying to do it, but the hardship is that, getting sponsorship for it, getting partnership, but we've been successful at leveling up every year. So now we have a lot of big sponsors like Holley and FTI Transmissions, VP Racing Fuels. You know what I mean? Some of the bigger ones, TBM Brakes, Motion Raceworks. So it's coming along, but it's still hard to that standard, yeah.
And Tombo, you having your own race team, right? I mean, you go from being on the seat to watching and coaching guys. I mean, I know that's got to be difficult. I played football once upon a time, and then I coached in college for a year. And, the hardest thing is when you know how something should be done and you're trying to teach other guys to do it, and you might not get it the way you want it. So how is that, running your own race team?
It gets difficult, but I can handle it. It's just sometimes people have a way they want to do certain things. But by me being in the seat and role before, I can tell you what this is going to do, what this is going to do. It's like I was talking to Dunk a little while ago. I said, man, you need to get on the bike. No. I said, I can work with you because he's not afraid of speed. He can get on that thing. So you got to just, being the leader, the coach, the crew chief, and all of that stuff comes in one package, and I can relate what's going on the track and how to speak to people. Like Destiny, she speaks so well. If I was a sponsor, if I was a big business man, you got it. Look at that smile.
And then Rod, I mean, we're talking about having an IndyCar team and, Indy Lights and USF 2000. I mean, you're talking about millions of dollars to run a race team for a season, right? And that's not even including all the extra expenses in the off season. How is that? Talk about that experience.
Well, I can tell you now, it's difficult. That's an understatement. But the thing that happens in motorsports, and everybody up here already knows that, is you can't do it without the money. And most of us started with our own money. Then we went out to seek money. And I can tell you now, it's very, very difficult to get enough sponsors to give you everything that you need. So you end up going into a deficit every year. So I think the one advantage that I had going into this, having run a business for a lot of years, I wanted to make sure that I was profitable out the gate. So I didn't even go to the racetrack until we had the funding taken care of. And like you said, I mean, I'm sure with drag racing is a lot more reasonable. Open wheel racing is crazy, and formula racing. The dollars don't even make sense when you start to think about it. And Destiny, you were talking about, they told you up front, you can't make any money in dragging, which hopefully you can and are. In our business, there's a joke. It says, if you want to make $1 million in formula racing, start with 2. And the whole idea is that you're going to end up, spending all of that money and more. But I think the upside is, at least for now, and I'll just be straight up with you, the murder of George Floyd did a lot for African Americans across the board in terms of those corporations who felt some empathy to what was going on in the country. And I know I benefited from that. When I sat down with talking to Roger Penske, he said, why did you do what you did with, NXG Youth Motorsports? And I told him. And he said, I'd like to see an African American at Indy. I said, we've already done that. There's been 2. And so I said, I think you should look towards supporting a team. And that's how we started. And so we went around and raised the money because he's one of the most influential people on the planet. So I've learned a lot just working with him in corporate America, how they work, and we were able to garner the funds. But absolutely right. I mean, you were talking about the lower levels of racing.
Yes.
For us, where we started, the IndyCar is like a ladder system, kind of like baseball, single A, double A, triple A, and majors. And we were starting at the single A level, and it was still costing us over $1 million a year. So now our budget is close to 2.2 to run one car, and we're running 2 this year. But we're able to get these sponsors to support us. I just don't know how sustainable that'll be. That'll be one of the challenges that we have, is because there is still that empathy. And the racing industry, at least on the open wheel side, they haven't started to value us yet. And that's why I get excited about what we're talking about here, is that they realize that, A, we have a lot of talent and a lot of skill, and we bring to bear a large audience. And then once they see that, then all of a sudden, I think I'm going to put some dollars to that. And that's what I have to do, is to make sure that they understand that we're here and we're not going anywhere. And it doesn't matter if it's open wheel or drag or donk, whatever it is. If we can stay in it, I think, and convince the sponsors to support us, we'll be all right.
That's awesome. And, a big part of that is you and who you bring to a table. I know in business, somebody told me they invest in the person way before you invest whatever they're trying to present. each one of you are your own brand, and even with Dockmaster, you have a national TV show. Like, how was that? Tell the people kind of some of the steps in your mind as far as, was there a transition to on the big stage? Like, there's a lot of responsibility, especially when you're pulling a whole culture behind you. Talk about that.
So as far as the TV show, we started filming the show in 2015. So we actually filmed some of it in 15, then we filmed some of it in 16, and then we filmed all of it in 18. So we was working with one production company the entire time. So after it got filmed, then we had to sell it to a distributor. So we sent it to Discovery, sent it to History Channel, A&E, and then Vice picked it up. So Vice did it, and then once it hit in 2020. So the TV show was filmed in 18, and then it got on the air in 2020. And then after that, it started going crazy. So after it went on Vice, they played it every day, 3-4 times a day. And then Motor Trend leased it from Vice, and then they put it to the masses. And that's when it really took off. And you can see it with our social media, the crowds. So like we would have 3,000-4,000 people, then it turned to 10,000 people. So it just depended on where we was at, and it just, the TV, I just use it as promotion. So I used to watch a lot of YouTube videos on how to market and brand yourself, product placement, and analytics and influence. So I would just wear certain things, and then I would just call the companies that I was already using and be like, look, you on TV, what's happening? You know what I'm saying? That's just basically what I did. Yeah, so I'd be like, and they'd be like, dang, you really is. And then I shoot them, so I had my manager, Steve Moe, he would shoot the deck, we put all the numbers together, and we just sent it to him. And they'd be like, oh man, y'all really know what y'all talking about. And then it just started going from there. But yeah, the TV is really just a marketing tool for me.
That's awesome. Destiny, how important is it to manage your brand and just be conscious of how you represent yourself, especially, with girls and how you inspire? Talk a little bit about that.
First and foremost, that's my whole focus, making sure I am presentable at everything, at the racetrack, off the racetrack, on social media, whatever it is, because I know that a lot of kids, boys, girls, even adults, look up to me. So I want to make sure I'm putting my best foot forward with everything that I'm doing. I never want to, put the wrong image out there. And my biggest thing is getting myself out there to show people that there's something else to do out here in this world other than, your basic football or track and stuff like that. A lot of people, kids, don't even know about motorsports at all. So I like to go back to my schools, my middle schools and high schools, and showing them on the career days, like bringing my motorcycle up there. I also drive tractor trailers, bring the truck up there, showing them that, hey, this girl is doing this and I can do it too. So at the end of the day, I just want to be the best. I don't like to say role model because it's so much more than that. I don't want to say influencer, but being that best example for men, women, boys, girls, and everything I do. Point blank period. That's why I make sure I'm speaking correctly, make sure I'm dressing correctly, and learning the business so that way I can teach it to others.
So right on the flip side of that, being the business owner and understanding the importance of a driver, not only skill, but how they present themselves. Is that a big decision on who you decide to put in your car?
Yeah, absolutely. We vetted 12. In fact, I can tell you it was very difficult to find a driver, male, female, African-American, to run in open-wheel racing because the cost of entry, as we've talked, is so expensive. So we started looking at those who've come out of karting that have gone to schools and showed some promise. So we chose Miles Rowe, who's actually made a lot of, he's an unbelievable person. It reminds me of, Destiny's got a just unbelievable smile, looks good on camera, but is very comfortable talking and meeting people. And that makes it so much easier because then the sponsors feel like, oh, okay, this person can represent me. But everything is very intentional. I can't have him come to the track if, that day he had a bad day. You got to get over that, because I know we were racing earlier, this was last year, and he was like down on, we had a really bad day. And I said, man, just get over it. When you walk out of this trailer, you got to act like nothing happened. And so I think it's important to maintain the brand. We are a brand, Force Indy has built from the ground up. We didn't even exist before October 2020, and we've been fortunate to have, pretty good notoriety, but it could change in a heartbeat if somebody does something wrong. And it doesn't have, you know, I'm like the donk master here. We're gonna win. We want to win.
Yeah.
A lot of people keep thinking that, oh, we're just out there because, you know, we're African American. And I'm going like, well, that may be one of the reasons I can get a sponsor, but that's not going to be the reason why I'm here. And so for us winning, that was huge. A little upset this year that we didn't do better, but we're planning on next year to win some races. So, but yeah, branding and knowing who you are, presenting yourself well, and for me, I'm typically more of I'm a doer. You know, there's people ask me, what's your thing? I'm a doer. I'm a behind-the-scenes guy. I like to get the stuff done. So I appreciate you having me here, but what I like to do is put that other person out there, whether that's Miles or Ernie or somebody else, because lifting them up and making them represent who we are, to me, is the most important thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Tombo, you've been in this game for a very long time. How do you feel about the transition? Where do you see motorsports going? Or, you know, do you like where it's going? You know, what's your thoughts on just how the industry has changed?
Well, I like the way it's going now. To me, it's a lot easier from, as you laugh and say, from the 80s. You know, it's a little bit easier because you got, I can see the computers trying to take over a lot more, you know, and, you know, I think the ceiling is just way up there where it's going. And what I'm more proud of now is the African American involvement, and I can see us going to the top.
And you all have been super successful in your space. What do you attribute the grind of keeping your head down, doing the work, and being successful against all odds? What do you contribute that to?
God, my backing, my family, you know what I mean? We pray every day and a good, solid team. You got to have a solid team. Like, it's my team in here right now, you know what I'm saying? So they a solid team behind you and just keep pushing forward. If something happened, it happened for a reason. That's how I look at it. I don't ever too much try to cry over spilled milk or something like that. If a tire pop off a trailer or something driving, then that means we wasn't supposed to be there at that time. So the timing is right, and this, you know what I mean, really is my faith. That's all I can really say.
Destiny?
No, he hit it right on the head. God first and foremost, seriously. And like he said, outside of God, like, you have to have a team. Because trust me, I've been out here for a long time, and there's been times where I've tried to do things by myself, trying to do everything. Yeah. And it's absolutely impossible. Like, you have to let go of the reins and find those people to help you, but you also have to make sure they're the right people. Being in motorsports is kind of slim pickings to find people that understand the need. You can have a corporate America person that can do the job for marketing, but if they don't understand how to market in motorsports, it's not going to work. So, yeah, finding a good team, that's it. And like he said, another thing, like everything he says is spot on. I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. Like, you can't afford to have, you're in qualifying number 2 and then something happens. You can't afford for somebody in your pit crew to get mad at you or you get mad at them because something happened. It's okay. Like, pick the milk up and keep it moving. You got 2 more sessions to go after and go get it. Like, anything can happen.
Tombo, same question. Same
answer.
Same
answer. Same answer. Same answer. Same answer. You know, God first, and everything's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. You can't get mad.